Today for this webinar, we're going to be talking about all about websites and how to optimize them for conversions, how to, basically help your website, your Fencer Deck website stand out so you can get more customers that are actually not only going to the website, but actually, reaching out and contacting you. So we'll talk about the 10 critical elements that enhance conversions for websites. We're going to be talking about how you can create a custom avatar. So how you can really target a specific type of person that you're looking to go after, and the exact type of customer that you want. And then we're going to go through some examples, best ways to optimize a website for conversions. But before I do that, I'm just curious, kind of want to get a read. I noticed a couple clients on here too, but just curious how everyone currently feels about their website. So put a 1 in the chat if you feel like your website is doing really well. You feel like it doesn't need much work. You're really confident about it. Put a 2 if you're kind of indifferent. You're not really sure. And then put a 3 in the chat if you really just don't like your site. All right. So a lot of 2s, surprisingly. Okay. All right. So, oops. All right. For those of you that if we've not met before, name's Alex Danner, and I'm the owner and founder of Fence and Deck Marketers. At Fence and Deck Marketers, we really take a lot of pride in providing the best free content for fence and deck builders. So we have a lot of different avenues that we do that. Obviously, these webinars that we're doing today, but we also do different partnerships with different brands and things, timber tech, decorators, do a lot of different webinars with them too. Post on social media with a lot of helpful stuff there. I wrote the best known fence and deck contractor a little less than a year ago. And then if you're into podcasts, we have the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast where we bring on guests really from all over. So it might be clients or just industry leaders or association presidents or vendors, all kinds of stuff. So I try to diversify that. And then I also bring a lot of marketing stuff, marketing specific stuff on there too. And then we're part of the associations, AFA, NADRA, and love really getting involved with those and getting involved in any way we can. So we only work with fencing and decking business owners, but just to give you an idea, since we're only speaking about websites today, we do other services. So SEO, we do pay-per-click ads, local services ads, Facebook ads, social media. So really kind of the main things that will help you grow your business. And we do a lot of that. So just a little tidbit there. Kind of the big picture of everything we do can kind of be summarized in our marketing system, the omnipresence marketing system. So it's really, really crucial to be omnipresent in a market these days because people are just bombarded with ads. But there's 3 different phases. The first one is going to be maximize opportunities. So you got to make sure that, you're actually getting leads and people coming to you. So you got to have different things that are actually going to get people to, really reach out, say they need help with their fence, their deck, anything like that. There's tons of ways to get opportunities. We're going to be talking about the website here today. But, things like SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, social media, these are all ways that you can maximize the opportunities and get as many opportunities as possible in the door. And then a big piece of this too, especially nowadays, is brand impressions. So there used to be a rule of 7 with marketing where someone needs to see your business 7 times before they reach out. But now that's just kind of blown away because now there's social media and just ads everywhere. People are just bombarded with them. So now there's actually a recent study done by a guy named Neil Patel. He's the biggest digital marketer that I know of, but he did a study that said if somebody's selling B2C for something that's $10,000 or more, it now requires somebody to see your brand 23 times before they'll actually reach out to you. So getting brand impressions, like having people familiar with your company, is a really, really big deal. And next is going to be conversions. And this is what we're going to be focusing mainly on today is how you can actually convert people and get them to reach out and how you can update your website to do that. So that will be the primary focus for today. With marketing, there's always some problems. There's always something to deal with, always something coming up. I'd love to hear any kind of challenges that you guys might be having, anything that's coming up consistently. Would love if you could drop that into the comments section. Any real problem that you have with marketing, any hurdles that you're encountering. So, maybe some, if you're kind of stumped, I'll give you some examples, some things that might be coming up for you. So maybe the website's old or it's outdated. Maybe your ads that you're running are not converting. Maybe you're just not getting quality calls. You're getting tire kickers, things like that. Maybe you're just not getting enough leads, or just, low quality leads. So just curious what everyone thinks. I mean, is there any specific hurdles you're seeing currently? Okay. So lead flow is definitely a big part of it. Targeting multiple areas with one website, and then ads. So, okay. So some problem with ads and some problem with the website. Okay. Mandy, there are a bunch of webinars on the website if you want to circle back to something that's specific to the social media stuff or Google ads or local services ads. Because that's quite a few things that are involved in that. But okay. All right. I think we're good there. Okay. So one common problem that we have, or that we hear, is, marketing is a big investment. So, especially if you've never currently done any kind of marketing before, if you start to get involved, then it could really be, kind of a shock. But what we really see is usually around 3 to up to 12% of gross revenue is what it's actually 3 to 8, the Small Business Administration says to spend on marketing. I would say we see anywhere from 3 to 12 with our clients, but it's really something that should be based off of the goal that you want to hit. So if you're trying to if you're at 1 million now and you want to get to 2 million, that percentage of spend should be based off what you want to go after. So if you're trying to go from 1 million to 2 million and you don't change anything with your marketing spend, you kind of are just hoping for luck at that point. So you got to have something that's going to fuel that engine. But, it really just depends on your goals, what you want, and how fast you want to grow. So that'll depend on, how aggressive you need to be with marketing. This is a pretty common one too. So maybe you're seeing traffic, but not enough leads. Maybe even you're getting kind of reports on the traffic going up, but the leads aren't going up with it. So we had a client that that was a contractor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And when they joined us, we analyzed the website, and they were ranking well for a lot of keywords. It wasn't like the traffic was stalled or anything like that, but the phones weren't ringing. So I did a big SEO audit of the website to go in and dig in to see what the issues might be. And turns out they were ranking for a lot of informational type queries. So instead of keywords that are going to lead to conversions, they were more targeted as, blog post type things, how to stain a deck, or, the difference between composite and wood decking, the pros and cons, things like that. So they're ranking well for that, but not necessarily the keywords like, ranking for deck builder in their city, which is what, a big keyword there, or fence contractor in a city. So there's nothing wrong with having traffic like that. It's just, you don't want to only have that. And it can be extremely misleading if you just have a lot of website traffic, everything looks green in Google Analytics, but the leads aren't following. So you just got to be careful with that. Low ROI. So I think Manny, we were kind of talking about that too. With measuring the ROI, it can be tricky with marketing. You can have some doubts as to what's actually going on, and quite honestly, it can be tricky from both ends, depending on how you manage the leads that you have. So if you don't have a way or a software or a manual process to track from the beginning when a lead comes in all the way to the actual job sold, it's going to be tough to judge the ROI. So we'll have clients that will manually do this, or they might have a software like Service Titan that'll basically be able to do all of this at once. So until you have that data, it's very hard to make that decision. That's why I really enjoy working with softwares like Service Titan, because it gives you that full picture and it's a lot more clear. There's others besides Service Titan. HubSpot, I know, does it, and there's a couple other I'm blanking on. But, from our end, when we do tracking, we'll be able to have tracking phone numbers for every type of marketing. And then we can have those numbers so we know how many leads came from where. But until you can trace it back to the actual project sold, it's tough to see what those actual numbers are. And, it could even be that if you don't have that data, you're just not even really sure what's going on. And it could be going better than you think, or it could be worse than you think. So it's really important to be able to dig into that and kind of trace it back to the actual revenue of the job sold. So at the end of the day, if all of these things are going on, that's going to mean failure. So we're not generating enough leads for the investment and really just can't grow, which is where none of us want to be. So if you're doing any type of marketing, this includes digital and offline, you really, really need to have a great website that's built to convert. So businesses are going to judge you based off your website. If they're kind of looking in the area to see who's around and what companies are available or contractors in the area, they're going to be judging you based off your website. And then if they're also looking offline, if somebody's sending a mailer out or a door knocker, more than likely they're going to Google your business, they're going to look at your reviews, and then they're going to check out the website. So no matter what you do, you need to have a good website that's built to convert. And what I mean by convert is not just getting the people there so it ranks well in SEO, but actually turning those people into actual customers. So giving them the things they need to actually call you, reach out with a form, or whatever the case may be. So ideally, we want to consistently convert those visitors to callers and leads. Most people don't really pay attention to conversion optimization. It's not something that's looked at, but it's something we pay a lot of attention to, because if you can get more leads with a similar website with a couple tweaks, like who wouldn't want to do that, but when somebody goes to your website, you gotta, convey certain messages. You want to make sure you look trustworthy, or, that you're the right person for the job, that you're capable of doing it, that you're not gonna pull one on anybody, that kind of thing. Protect your property, respect your property, that kind of thing. So you want to dispel any concerns that you have on the website, to make sure people are, get comfortable with you before reaching out. All right. So at the end, what you want to do is build that momentum. So if you have a great website, that's a great starting point to kind of build things up, things like SEO or ads, you kind of build in that direction. But until you have that website that's built properly in the beginning, it's going to be very hard to build momentum. You need to have that foundation. So the end of the day, marketing isn't magic. I'm sure everybody here gets bombarded from marketers and emails and calls and stuff, promising the moon, but there really are ways to do this. It's not magic. You just have to have the right strategy, and you have to really just be consistent with it. So, once you build that momentum and keep going over time, it's going to kind of compound on itself. So, all right. So at the end of the day, what we're all looking for, we're trying to get the phones ringing, salespeople are actually closing. If you have that, the crew's busy, business booming, that's what we're looking for. So that's what we're going to talk about, how you can go through the website, some specific changes that you can make to really help do that. So if that's what everyone is, the ideal scenario, just put a $sign in the chat. If that's what everyone came here for, to really kind of have that consistent wheel going. Touched on this a little bit already, but the website really is the hub. So no matter where you are, like I said, digital or offline, if they go to social media too, or they find you on YouTube, or you're on a billboard, or, we talked about flyers or yard signs, no matter what they do, they're always going to end back on the website. It's always going to be something they're coming back to. I get mailers from random services, home services all the time. And I get the postcard, I look at it. The first thing I do is go to Google and just see what they are. Are they actually a real company? Because you just never know. And if you don't have a website, you might as well not be real in that scenario. So when somebody's trying to buy, probably more so it works for both fencing and decking, but decking is typically higher cost. But on the decking side, especially, they're wanting to do some research on who's going to have that project for them. So when you have a nice website with nice pictures and different ideas for things they can use for their own job, that's going to help them kind of point them in that direction to get better, or to reach out to you. Okay, so I wanted to give you some numbers basically to show you why conversion rate optimization is important, why we spend so much time on it, and why we've done testing on it. So the first scenario, say you have 500 visitors per month on a website, and say 5% of those people convert. That would mean 25 calls or leads. If your sales team or whoever's doing the sales is closing at 30% conversion, that's basically going to mean 7 jobs for 2,500 average profit, or 17,500. doing more so of like a fencing job here. On the other hand, if things were done correctly, the website's built properly, that kind of thing, you have the same number of visitors every month, triple that, double or triple that. So in this case, we're going to triple that to 15% conversion. So instead, out of that 500, we're now getting 75 calls or leads, 30% conversion on the sales. That's then 22 jobs, same profit, and 55,000. So if you pay attention to this, and we see this all the time, we've done this with, we used to do websites for just websites. We don't do it anymore, but we used to just do that. And we would see when a website would come in, we'd redo it, and we weren't doing SEO, we would get basically, messages, or when we would talk to the client, they would say, leads just picked up. So nothing else was done whatsoever, except the website was redone and it was optimized for conversions. So that's something you got to think about. And it's good news because, depending on your site, it might be some small tweaks. I don't know. It just depends if you have to redo it or not, but it's kind of some changes that you can go in and make and see an improvement pretty quick, with also not having to make, do a ton of work. So I'll give you some different ideas that you can update your website to that can help. And basically you can talk, that could end up being a lot of money. We're talking about the profit from fencing companies. If you're a deck builder, those numbers are going to get much, much higher too. So it is a really big deal to do that. All right, so we're going to talk about how to optimize your website for conversions, give you some specific ideas. These are the 10 critical elements to enhance conversion on a website. So kind of started off some of the basics. So the things that are just every website really needs to have. So you got to have a phone number that's large in the top right corner, or just, you can do in the center too. That's fine. But people read in kind of a Z pattern. So when you're looking at a business website, people are going to start off in that top left corner. They're going to see the logo, and then they're going to kind of scan across the menu, and then they kind of go down the page across from the top right to the bottom left. So they'll read through whatever is on the home page or in the hero image, and then start back over again. So you want to kind of play to that pattern. So that's why I recommend, having your logo, phone number, kind of there. And then, you want to have something in the homepage image that's for SEO, talking about premier deck builder, fence contractor in your city, something like that. And then also a schedule a free estimate button is a great idea too. So that's just another thing aside from the phone number. That way it goes to the contact page where they can reach out from there, or they can fill out the form. That works too. But having the form too, I missed that. So it's good to have a contact form on the contact page, but it's really good idea to put it on each page as well. And we like to put them kind of towards the top of the page, so it's very clear how to reach out to you. You want to make it painfully easy for someone to figure out how to reach you. You can also add symbols. You've probably seen these before on different sites, but if you have a good rating with the BBB, if you've won some award from Angie's List, or you're a certain type of contractor like TimberTech Platinum Pro, or decorators, certified elite, whatever the case may be, put those on there. Those look really good as well. And then the calls to action. So you want to, as somebody scrolls through your pages, you want to have consistent calls to action. You don't want to just have one in the header and then one in the footer. As you go through, you should have different things that will hopefully get them to reach out and contact you. It could be some kind of offer, or just something that's unique. Maybe you offer financing. That's a great one. You can talk about warranties, things like that are going to help them, stop and reach out from there. Make sure it's mobile optimized. I hope everyone has mobile optimized websites, and, actually not just you can use it on mobile, but think about like what exactly how it should look, or how you can make it easier to use on mobile too. So as you're scrolling through, give yourself an honest assessment. We talked about the forms here. Sometimes you can give an option to book online. We've done that before too, where you give them an option to schedule an appointment, or at the very least, you want to make sure someone is answering these leads as soon as they come in, so you can contact them immediately. Target avatar, we're going to talk about that here in a second. using real images of the team, the About Us page, things like that. That's a great idea. Using video is also a really good idea. Whether it's somebody just explaining the business and kind of the background of it, talking about the services you offer is a good idea too. And then leveraging social proof. So your reviews, putting those on the website. I'll show you some examples of that here too. And I'm going to dig into these a little bit more here in a sec. I want to talk about like how you can adjust the website to really go after the type of customer that you want. So there's this quote: if you can see Joe Jones through Joe Jones' eyes, then you can sell what Joe Jones buys. So pretty much just means understanding your clients or your ideal customer's perspective is key. So that way you can have that built into the website. You want to speak to that target customer and see through their eyes when you're doing this. So, whether it's the website or, all the different types of marketing you're doing, they should align properly with what that ideal customer wants. So you need to get a better understanding of who they are so you can really tailor the website to that. So this is the customer avatar, everything about the how you can really understand the customer better. So it's kind of like creating imaginary persona, whoever you're looking for, and we'll talk about each one of these here in a sec. But just getting an idea of exactly what these customers are looking at, so you have an idea of what could be included on the website. So we'll start off with demographics. So this is just an example, but one that's probably pretty typical. They're a homeowner, 35 years or older, typically male, occasionally female, married with 2 to 3 kids, head of the household, 150,000 in annual household income, family oriented, reliable, easily frustrated, likes to please people and expects the same in return, lives in the suburbs, upper middle class type neighborhood, takes an interest in their community. Then you have your pains and frustrations, so things that are just going to annoy them. Maybe if it was somebody looking for a fence and it was damaged and needs to be replaced, or their dog's getting out, or their kids aren't safe, and maybe it's something that needs to be fixed quickly. And they need to get somebody out there to inspect it and fix it and get quick estimates. They're probably just busy. Everybody's busy. And if they're pretty successful, I'm sure they have a lot going on, especially if they have 2 to 3 kids. So maybe they're just too busy to deal with it. Or, maybe they're just worried that, or just know that they can't be home during the work week when the contractor would come out. So they're worried about that. Just worried that the cost of the repair or the replacement is just going to be too costly. That's going to be something on their mind too. And then you have, the overall fears that they have. So maybe they're worried about getting ripped off or overcharged. Typically somebody's calling a contractor, they have that in the back of their head. They're paying too much and they could have gotten it elsewhere for a better price. Maybe they're worried about the yard being damaged and their brand new, beautiful grass gets all tore up. They have to wait for the estimator and it just takes too long and they don't have the time for it and just can't coordinate it, or at the end of the day, the cost is just too much. And then you want to understand their goals, their desires. So getting the fence or deck replaced or fixed, it's of course what they want done. They want to, if it was a decking project, they want to be able to entertain, they want to have friends and family over and impress them. If it's a fence, they want to keep their pet inside or their children safe. They want to have a well-kept home, something that's nice and tidy. They're very heavily invested in taking care of their family, of course. And, they want things like more money, more wealth, more status, or maybe they want to live in a nicer home or drive a nicer car, or they want to make sure their kids are happy, healthy, successful, and be able to spend more time with them. And of course, everyone, wants to have the approval of their friends or family, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, just really want to have peace of mind. So all of these things, when I first learned about this, I never really thought about the extent of it, because what somebody tells you is their main concern is not what actually their main concern is. They're going to say, oh, just price, or, want to get it done by a reputable company. All these things may be true, but there's also other things that they're thinking about that you can kind of play to as well. So it's a good idea to kind of think about your customer avatar, what's specific to your business and the type of customer you're going after. If you're a high-end deck builder, you're only doing 50,000 or more type projects a year, that's going to be a different avatar than somebody that's doing, fence repairs. So you got to think about what those exact type of people you are, which areas you're going after, what's specific to the service area you're going after too. All these things will help point you into the direction of those, hire that exact type of buyer. That's that customer avatar. Okay, so here's just a couple things, different messaging that we've seen work. So if you can get estimates out quick, 24 hours, that one always works really well. Or if you do a virtual estimate, something over Zoom, financing options are a great idea. If you have 0 payments for 12 months or no interest for 12 months, something like that, that can help push people over the edge. Talking about your team, your experience, you've been around a while, you've been doing this for a really long time. Warranties, if you give a lifetime craftsmanship warranty, that's a good idea to put on there too. If you have, if you're doing, as an example, like TimberTech or Decorators boards, you can put their product warranty on there, like a up to 50 year material warranty. If you're a local business, you're local to the area, you're family owned, that always sounds really good to to the customers. They want to work with somebody local and that kind of thing. Okay, so this is a big one here that most people don't do correctly or could be improved. So you want to be real and authentic. You want to let people know who's behind the business. So this is one of our clients, Premier Deck in New Hampshire, but they did a great job. They hired a photographer and took some team pictures, everyone wearing branded clothing, that kind of thing. They did individual pictures. This really goes a long way because people want to see who they're working with. And if everything is just kind of hidden and they don't know who's who and who they're working with, it's just going to add some more resistance than you want. And if your competitor has that and is very open and free with that, then they're going to look better as well. You can also put pictures of, wrapped trucks, pictures of the crews actually working or installing jobs. Of course, you want to have pictures before and afters or finished project pictures, that kind of thing too. And feel free to tell a story, especially if it's a good one. If you start the business from scratch or whatever the case may be, tell the story. People like a story. They want to hear kind of where the business came from. And if it's a good one, make sure to put it on there. Okay, this is a huge one too, the reviews. So whatever page that somebody comes to your website from, maybe it's a home page or one of the service pages, you want to give them everything they need to kind of make a decision ideally. So social proof should be on every single page that you have. People trust online reviews just as much as they trust word from a friends or family members. People really trust these online reviews. And if a perfect example or proof of this is, Amazon. So if I search for a product and I buy something off Amazon, I'm never going to buy something without looking at the reviews. And I look at the reviews if it's something super cheap, like $10, I'll just see and make sure I'm not buying something that's awful. So with a fence or a deck, something that's very expensive, you can count on somebody looking at those reviews. So that's why, side note, make sure you get a lot of reviews on your Google listing. But then you can also use things like these widgets to actually show the reviews on the website, and it can link to Google so they know it's legitimate. It's not a great idea to put like typed out reviews on a website. I mean, it's better than nothing, but really you want to have something that can be linked to Google or something legitimate. So make sure you add those, that review widget on every page. Okay, so making sure it's mobile friendly and making sure it's optimized for mobile is a huge benefit. So as of 2025, I just looked this up to get an updated number. 7.49 billion people now are on mobile phones. So most of the world's population is on mobile phones. And 3 out of 5 customers are going to be searching for local businesses on their smartphone. So this is going to go up too. Everybody's on mobile. More and more people are going to be doing that, especially as kind of the things continue to evolve. And then also Google did a report that said 46% of mobile consumers turn to a competitor site after a bad mobile web experience. So you need to make sure those websites are fast, they're loading quickly, and then you need to make sure they're kind of organized and designed to show what the best stuff is, I guess, on a mobile device. That might be a little bit different than on a desktop. So when you scroll through your website, get an idea, give that honest assessment. If you think it's a bad experience or it took too long to load, these are all problems that if you fix them can really help you out in a big way. Okay, so click to call. So you never want to make it hard for somebody to figure out how to reach you. So when I look at this, I'll just give you an example of a website. A big thing that we like to do is use big phone numbers. We'll animate it sometimes so you kind of see it all the time. And then having a get a free quote button. You can see as you scroll through these, follow you around. There's even a free estimate button that'll kind of go around, follow you around too. But the whole idea is you don't want to hide how to reach out to you. And if you have somebody that's on your website that might not be very tech savvy or great with computers or doesn't have great vision, whatever the case may be, and that can be pretty popular. If it's somebody that's older that has the money that can pay for this stuff, you want to make it very easy for them to reach out. So putting that, free estimates throughout the page might look like a lot, but it does help a lot with conversions if you kind of have that throughout the site. And then so you can see here too, just an idea of what it looks like on mobile. So, the phone number's there that kind of follows you around, fences, you can give quick links to the specific pages you want to go after. And then you kind of have the whole long list of options there too. But, make it easy for people to reach you. They can click with their thumb really fast. The website, this file is right near their thumb too. So they can click free estimate there. They got the contact buttons, things like that. All these things, like I said, makes it painfully obvious how to reach out to you. There's no question how to call when you have a site like that. Okay, so these are just kind of a recap of what we did. So when you're trying to redo your website or you're trying to fix it up, make sure that phone number is nice and big, top right corner. Make sure those forms are accessible. Anything that can add trust, like those different icons they see there. Clears calls to action, make it very easy for someone to figure out how to reach out to you, which we just talked about. Talking to your customer avatar, making sure the website's kind of pointed at those types of customers, using special offers that match the services. So if you're, I don't know, giving a free gate with a new fence or certain number off of, a new deck or a new fence, you can put that in there. Making sure it's mobile optimized and really paying attention to that closely, because it's really easy to build a website or have a website that, you go on your computer, it looks really good, and then be lazy about checking out the mobile view and adjusting things. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of annoying if you build this nice site and then you got to edit things on mobile after you feel like you just finished the site. But it is a big deal because more people are using mobile than desktop these days. I forget the exact number, but it's something like close to 60%, I think. The forms, make sure those are at the top of the page. If you can get people to book online, that's a good idea, but just make sure someone's sitting there ready to call these leads. Talked about the avatar, the images, make sure that about us page and pictures of the team are on there. That's a huge deal. And then if you are savvy with videos or, if you're great with drones, that's huge too. But creating some video, that's great. And also not just to help convert people, but it's also going to keep people on the page longer. So if you have a video where they have to watch it, that's going to tell Google that somebody stayed on this website longer, and that can actually help rankings too. So it's a good idea. And then the social proof. So making sure that somebody's or each page has that, review widget, so you can see what people are saying, all the nice things about you. Okay. All right, so I already asked this question to see if you think it was built for conversions. So I'm going to skip that, but I wanted to just give you an idea of another site here. So this is iCore up in Connecticut, but you can see there's some things that are consistent that we know because we've tested that work really well. So on this one, we did a couple different things. You can see stuff like this, like the different associations they're part of. You can see that they were a national deck competition winner. So we put that in the header there. And then you can see the forms accessible there. Everything kind of follows you around. There's testimonials there. It shows what you do. The process, I don't think I mentioned that, but showing the actual process of what it takes to get involved is a big deal. So people kind of know what they're getting into. And then sections like this, I love. Why choose us? Well, we won awards for building decks, got a lot of reviews, custom designs, stuff like that. Talk about the different companies that you work with. That's a good idea too. And then of course you want to have a bunch of images. So showing off images. This is just the homepage here. But this is kind of an idea of what you want it to look like to really be able to turn those, those viewers or those visitors of the website into actually reaching out to you. Okay, so like to make this, get some positive stuff out of this, not just learning about it. So I want to see, or I'd like you guys to pick 3 things that you can implement in the next 30 days. So things that would help, that you know how to do, or you can get somebody to help you with it. But, money loves speed. You want to be quick to implementing things like this. So I'd like you to write down anything that we talked about today that you could add to your website and really commit to doing it, because I can promise you, if you have these things installed on your website, it's going to mean, more leads that are coming to your website. And at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff can be done one time and it's just going to help you from then on out. So, so we'll say, yep, no problem, Alan. So right now, because I get this question a lot, I've done some content on it recently too, but right now we're kind of winding down a little bit. I mean, it should still be going pretty strong. I hope so anyways, but we're going to get closer to the winter months. I just closed my pool, so I know it's getting a little bit colder, but I know it's kind of getting to that point. And, before we know it, it'll be November, December. So the best possible time, just a good coincidence, I guess, but the best possible time to figure out your website and get your things in order for the springtime is right around this time, or October, ideally earlier October. So if you do it, if you get this stuff figured out and, do things like SEO too, that's a big piece of this. It's going to help you out a lot come springtime, because you're going to be set up in the right position. Things like, getting Google to see your website, understand the pages, content, building backlinks, things like that. It is going to take time, but luckily this is a good time of year to be doing it. So, you just don't want to wait too long. This right now is, a lot of times we get more calls in this time of year, kind of through the springtime, just because every contractors are out of work. And every year we always have contractors that want to start in like February, January, and it's better than nothing, but it is late. You want to be in the best position possible come springtime, so you can really hit the ground running and have the things that you need to rank better and do better. So, having said all this, I am willing to do some free audits for anyone that has attended the webinar. I appreciate everyone on here and really being so, being great in the chat. But I can do a free audit for anyone that's interested. It's going to be very extensive. I'll go through everything you have online, your website, your Google listing, etc. And it'll basically tell you exactly where your business currently stands. So, it'll show you things that are doing well, not just things that can be improved, but things that are also going well. And I'll give you a list of custom recommendations for ways to improve. So it's not going to be just some like auto-generated report, things like that. I'll personally be going through this and giving my best recommendation. So something I normally would charge money for. So just want to extend that. Like I said, you guys have been great, but put a 1 in the chat if you're interested in getting a free audit. Something where I go through and go through it custom for your business. So I see some ones in here. Matilde, who's part of our team, is going to send you a message directly so we can get your information. Anybody that enters a 1. So Matilde, you can do that. Matilde will reach out to each one of you. You can also just put your business website and your personal phone number in the chat too, if you'd like. Otherwise, Matilde can send you a message. And then, oh, Mandy, I just saw your question. Thought of a question also. Do you recommend FAQs? Yeah, that's a great question, Mandy. And that's actually something I should have added to my presentation. So thanks for bringing that up. So FAQs are a really, really, really good idea. You want to have questions that'll answer common questions that you have. There should be someone here. Or maybe it's on the service pages. Yeah, so basically, oh, I know we have them somewhere. Basically what you want to do is have questions of just what you consistently see. So, people want to know kind of how long things take, installing a new fence, or you write custom fence designs, warranties, things like that. There is software that will show you exactly what people do search, so you can have FAQs based off of that. That's what we do. But at the very least, if you don't have access to those tools, you can just basically, think of what people typically ask you, that kind of thing. So it's a great idea, Mandy. And actually, to take it even a step further with AI, because we didn't talk about that because it's a whole other topic, but with AI and ChatGPT, people search differently there. They're going to ask specific types of questions. So if you have answers to those questions, that's going to help you rank there better too and give them some answers. So yeah, FAQs are a fantastic idea. All right. Yep. Any other questions? Anything else you want me to cover? Alan said, where can we find password? Alan, so if you go to the website, our website, deckfencemarketers.com, there'll be a menu item for webinars. I can just go there for you real quick. So webinars here, there's a whole bunch on there. So, yep, no problem. Matilda, did you get a chance to message everybody? I know there's a couple that you had to go there. I don't want to.
Yes, Alex, I am messaging with them right now.
Okay, cool. All right. We do have, I guess about 10 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. I'm going to be waiting around here anyways, because once Matilda kind of chats with everybody, but if you have any questions, let us know. This is all of our social media stuff. Like I said, we try to post close to once a day. For the most part, it's really just stuff that's different tips and tricks. A lot of the things that we talk about today, I'll create videos on it so you can get little bits of information that you can add to your website or your ads, whatever the case may be. So feel free to check us out there. We post on all the major social media channels. And that is it's not really your website, but that is another good point too. If somebody's looking for a new fence or a deck, and there's a good chance they're going to go on social media too. So, at least posting some different projects that you have, once a week at least is a good idea. You don't want to overinvest into social media. You don't want to, especially if you're on the smaller side, you don't want to just spend tons and tons on, social media or paying somebody to do it. But it is a good idea to kind of have that portfolio on your different social media channels, that kind of thing. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's really about it. I'm going to stay on here if anyone has any questions, but I know Matilda is speaking with everyone there to get all that, but everyone else free to go, and appreciate you coming on the webinar. I will be, and actually just an update too, I'll be sending out an email. We're doing a new webinar. We're partnering with TimberTech. So we'll have a really cool webinar coming out in, I think it's October 7th. So we'll send out some emails about that. That's going to do some more marketing stuff and some really high level things. So feel free to join that. And then we're going to continue these webinars. So we'll have a new topic next month. I forget the exact schedule, but we'll send invites and all that stuff. But as always, appreciate everyone watching, and yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of the week, rest of the year, and yeah, take care.